This is Alan Abrone with ARA Self-Empowerment Podcast. We have a hot topic on today. I want you to do me a favor. Reach out to your friends and let them know that I'm here live. ARA Self-Empowerment Podcast. Go over to our YouTube channel, ARA Self-Empowerment. And I want you to like, subscribe, and I want you to hit that notification button. We have a hot topic today. A really hot topic. And it's an unfortunate situation that has happened in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the city of Frisco. I think that's the city of Frisco where this particularly tragic event happened or transpired, or however you want to use those words. And so ARA Self-Empowerment is all about community impact. We're all about community impact over profit. We're all about destroying destructive practices and tearing down propaganda and building up revelation and truth. And so if you have an opportunity to go and follow us on Facebook, do so. ARA Self-Empowerment Podcast. Like and follow us on Facebook. And so our purpose is to build up the community. Our purpose is to put information out there where people can listen to it and build themselves up and not feel as if because I discuss various topics that I'm a victim. You know, that's the new gaslighting and the new self-defense mechanism that have been created within the United States of America, that if you discuss obvious situations, if you discuss obvious practices, all of a sudden you're a victim. You race baiting. You're having a race card. You're looking for something for free. So we want to keep discussing those situations in regards to the United States of America, in regards to being a person who may have ancestry tracing it back to the continent of Africa. But let's not get on that about the continent of Africa and ancestry. We desire to get right on in on this topic today. And this topic is about two male teenagers who interacted with one another in the city of Frisco at a track meet that I heard about or read about and even seen on the news. And again, most of the things that are being put out there is allegedly, because let's just be frank about it. I wasn't there. Most of you that are listening to this video, you wasn't there. You was not an eyewitness. So how are so many people coming up with all of these theories, hypotheses, and whatever conspiracy theories? How are you coming with all these conclusions? Now, you can come up with your conclusion. You can decide what you feel happened, because that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I'm going to give you my opinion and possibly a theory on what transpired and what is transpiring throughout the United States of America. Now let's get right on in. The teen that unalived the other teen, his name was Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony. He's 17 years of age. He is a teenager because by law he's a teenager. He's a juvenile because he is under the age of 17. The other teenager is Austin Metcalf. This is the person who lost his life, and he happened to be a European American. The other teen who unalived Austin Metcalf was African American. Now let's break this down in sections, and we're going to go down, because you have to do this to even try to I wouldn't say diagnose, to break it down. Let me say it that, somewhat diagnose it, but I don't want to give a diagnosis to them, because one of the things when it comes to African American men, they are the most misdiagnosed of both genders, male and female, and all races. That's a factual point that I'm going to give you. You can look that up. That's a fact. And that's a fact of itself. And so when we go back to the context, did the man unalive, the young man rather, Karmelo Anthony, did he unalive Austin Metcalf? no doubt, because he confessed that he stabbed the other young man. So that's not the point. We're not here to decide if he unalived him or not. That's already been decided because he confessed to doing it. The question that comes up is, why did he stab the other teen, and did he do it in self-defense or maliciousness? Now, here's the point that I'm making here. You have so many people saying that Karmelo Anthony went there looking for trouble. Based on what? See, this is the point that we need to discuss. I heard something about Charleston White, and you hear a lot of African Americans who feel like, especially Officer Tatum, who feel like they have to, what's the word for it? It seems as if they have this mandate or calling that I must show so-called white America, because I don't believe that you're white anyway. You're European American. You're not white. White is a social construct. I'm going to keep saying that. I don't care if I use the term at some point or use it now. It still is a social construct. If I say you're white, it's a social construct. It's not your race. But there are people like Karmelo Anthony and Charleston White to a certain degree, because he flip-flops back and forth with a lot of double-bind communication. I like Charleston White, but he's very intelligent, but he has a lot of double-bind communication in what he talked about, just like Candace Owens and Officer Tatum. Now, Charleston White is not as worse as Officer Tatum and Candace Owens, but he is somewhat bad when it comes to double-bind communication. And so when we start discussing Karmelo Anthony unaliving Austin Metcalf, the main thing we have to understand is, how are you coming up with these narratives and your conclusions or your diagnosis to say that he went there looking for trouble? No one can know someone's intent. You can only know the action. They have two components, is mens rea and justice rea. Now, you can say that I knew his intent, but you don't really know someone's intent. You can't say I knew he went there unless you're God or the Holy Spirit. Now, you can look at the very act. The very act is that he stabbed him, and he admitted to stabbing him. So we understand the act was being he stabbed him. That's clear cut. But the intent part, we have no knowledge of the intent. We would have to piece together something to try to say we knew his intent. So now let's go down memory lane. This is how we have to understand about people's mindset. And when I say people's, I'm talking about people in the United States of America. We're not talking about Africa. We're not talking about Great Britain. And we're not talking about Russia. We're talking about the United States of America, its historical background. I understand when people go into psychology, they want to do cognitive behavioral therapy. They want to go into a situation where we don't want to talk about the history. We want to talk about today. I don't want to hear about your mama, and I don't want to hear about your daddy, about what he did 50 years ago. I want to hear about what you did today, and not so far back as a week. And that's not context. There's no way you can conceptualize a situation without going into the history and bringing some kind of context to the situation. And so you would have to go into the history of Karmelo Anthony, the history of Austin Metcalf, to understand their brain development. Because the first thing we have to understand of brain development is that no two brains mature the same. No two brains, because I'm looking at a situation and you're looking at a situation. How I diagnose that situation, you may diagnose it different. How I perceive you as a threat is different than how you perceive me as a threat. Every threat is not the same. So the neutralization of a threat is not based on the same diagnosis of if it is a threat or not. And simply because someone is bigger than another in size or smaller than another in size, or because they are African American or African, doesn't mean they have higher pain tolerance, or, like an animal or something. And so let's kind of not get all over the place. Let's go to the parents. And I want to look at the parents of Austin Metcalf. I want to look at that. I really want to take my time with this. Let's look at the parents of Austin Metcalf, and we want to look at the parents of Karmelo Anthony. Let's be frank about it. I have not heard Karmelo Anthony's father speak. I haven't heard his mother speak. So I really haven't had an opportunity to conceptualize him in a sense on a video. Okay. And let's be frank about it. I did have an opportunity to listen to Austin Metcalf's father and his mother and his twin brother. Now, this is just my opinion. This is just my reflection of meaning and how I saw it when I listened to Austin Metcalf's father. That was a hard watch. That was hard. This is just my opinion. I don't care what anybody else say. Well, let me back up. I don't want to say I don't care, because I do care. What I want to say is what someone else may have to say about my reflection of meaning, or how I felt when I was listening to Austin Metcalf's dad. Let's just say they have a right. We have a right to agree to disagree. Let's say it that way then. But I took the time to listen to Austin Metcalf's dad. He seemed genuine. The man was deeply hurt from what I saw. Man, it was almost like watching, I've been in a service, I played sports before, and I've been on the side of losing and winning and struggles. And it's nothing like looking your teammate or your shipmate or fellow soldier, because I was in the Navy and the Army, and I played college basketball, to give so much and see the faces of some of your comrades or teammates feeling like, man, and trying everything in your power to make sense of the loss or the struggle or whatever we're going through. And you trying as a man, and when I say a man, men and women deal with their emotions different. So I'm just sharing my experience of how I felt another man was trying to deal with his emotions. I mean, deeply torn and hurt. But some of the statements that this man made is that I realized that it's just like a fight. It's just like playing sports. It's like pain. It's like being tired. When you're at your weakest moment, when you in the battle or whatever you want to call it, you're going to find out what you really believe, because you're going to start grasping for that, because you're not trying to rise to the occasion. You're going to fall to the level of your training. I don't care how many tired you are. If you know how to fight and defend yourself, you're going to resort back to the basic techniques and things that you do to survive. You may not win, but you might be at your last strength, but you're going to still go back to that, because that's what you know to do. This man, obviously, he's rested with God. He's grasping, holding on to God. He really, after someone just unalive your son, is trying to make sense, because I don't see him as believing all people are evil, or all people are. But now when I see the mother, I see something different. I see something totally different. It was a different aura, even with the twin brother. And what it appeared to be, I felt entitlement. I'm not saying it's all about me. When I mean about entitlement, like I have a right to be here. I can do this because of who I am. And attitude is a reflection of leadership. And so many times, even though parents are married, many times people can come out of the same home because you receive or obtain 50% of your DNA from both parents. That means that a parent is not God. A parent is not the Holy Spirit. And many times as children, they pick up things from one parent and they pick up from another parent. And if there is a parent that feels like they're entitled or feel like if I walk into a restaurant and because of who I am or whether it's my race or whether I live or you see this a lot with European Americans, a certain group of European Americans. Uh, you can obtain a college degree, they can obtain a college degree. But because in the back of their mind, they have this superiority, that I'm better than you complex, your degree means nothing. I watched that on a video where there was a Hispanic or Latino woman who said that Kamala Harris, and they say Kamala is a disrespected tone. You don't have to agree, but you don't have to be disrespectful. But you want to paint Kamala Harris as a hoe, dumb as a box of rocks. That's what she said. So you mean to tell me this woman took a bar exam, stood before a bar and presented an oral argumentation or whatever she did, passed it, and she's dumber than a box of rocks. So that means the whole California bar is dumber than a box of rocks. The school she received her jurisprudence is dumber than a box of rocks to give it to her. The people who elected her, the state of California, is dumber than a box of rocks. Half the United States is dumber than a box of rocks because they elected her or they actually voted her in as the Democratic nominee. But when you don't see people as on your level, when you don't value other people's rights, then you become aggressive. And see, that's why they call microaggressions, and then they have aggressions. Microaggressions are subtle aggressions. See, aggressions is saying, I know I have rights, but I don't respect your rights. Being assertive is, I know I have rights, but I respect your rights. So we're not trying to victimize or break down Austin Metcalf saying he had no right to be at the track meet or Karmelo Anthony has a right. We're going to get on Karmelo Anthony. I'm just kind of diagnosing or breaking down what I observed. So I observed his mom feeling a sense of my son was right. Now, this is not to say the father don't feel his son was right, because he, rightfully so, I'm going with my son. But I saw a different feeling and an aura about the father. The father had the prime of really being hurt, but falling on his faith. Also wanting to know what's going on here, not demonizing the son of another man because he's trying to understand, because his faith said these are both two young men. He's believing this is not about race. This is about two young minds that have not fully matured. And it goes back to a historical context that the African American young man mind is always seen as a fully mature mind or evil mind, looking for crime, wanting to do crime, and never questioning why would a young man stab another person in the chest. Now, this is something that a person had to really think. You mean to tell me it's almost like in the movie Django, you just gonna come up here, no appointment, no nothing. Now, it was funny, but he's saying you just came up here, no point, just to come up here with one of my nigga gas. Now, that was funny, but there was something to think about. Here, it was a slave trader. He trying to figure out what made you drive way up here to buy one of my nigga gas. Out of all the nigga gas, you just had to come up here for this one. Or look for this one. Now, that seems like that math wasn't mathing. And the math is not mathing that you want me to believe that a young man with good grades, living in a good environment, brought a knife to unalive your son just because he didn't like the color of his skin. Is that plausible? Is that possible? It is, but highly unlikely, considering the other situations that we want to look into it. But let's look at the mother again. Is it highly likely that when you walked up on this person, you felt that my presence, even if you wasn't supposed to be in the tent, maybe he wasn't supposed to be in there. What made you feel that you was the authority or you had the power to remove him? Let's look at the historical context of that. Look at January the 6th. Look at how so many European Americans walk around with guns and pistols. Now, we have the Sheriff Department. We have SWAT. We have the Air Force, Space Force, the Marine Corps, the Army, Army National Guard, Army Reserve, Navy Reserve, Marine Reserve. Lord, SWAT, DEA, FBI, CIA. I can go on and on about the amount of power that we have. But what makes so many European Americans feel it's their duty to walk around with a pistol on their hip and an assault rifle is if they are the police? We have the House of Representatives. We have the Senate. We have 3 branches of government: executive, judicial, and legislative. We have the Supreme Court, District Court, Appeals Court, precincts, judges, lawyers, all of these processes. But why did you feel the need to go up to the Capitol on January 6th and just bust in? Like, oh no, y'all cheating. It's called entitlement. I don't have to go through the process. I don't have to walk over and say, hey man, you in the wrong place? Well, okay, well, let me go get an authority. You don't have to get an authority when you think you are the authority. And this is how some European Americans feel, just like they don't even see the whole case. And this is not to say Karmelo Anthony is innocent, because I don't know Karmelo Anthony. I don't. But the fact that you took the knife and stabbed him, but you also did the same thing as Austin Metcalf. Let's be frank. You took it in your power to stab him. If he told you to get out the seat, I'm not saying you had to get out the seat. Hey man, I'm not getting out the seat. I'm not saying you had to, because you have a right to be there. If he put his hand on you and grabbed you, now that's the conversation. If he threw your bag down, hey man, you know what? I'm not even worried about it. Let me go get an authority. But let me put this caveat in there. So many times African Americans have done just that when it got authorities and nothing happened, and the people keep walking over them. See, this is the caveat to the situation, that when you have a person, I don't care what race, that feel that the authority or people are not protecting their rights, they take matters into their own hands. How we know this? That's exactly what they did on January the 6th. They felt like the people are not taking our interest, and they took it in their own hand. So what's the difference? The difference is that what are they telling you? We can take it into our own hands. You cannot. That's what Bull Connor said. D the law. We are the law. So when you see so many different assessments of this situation, it's because entitlement. People feel I'm entitled to do this. And there's another group, no, they are not. And so they're upset because they know we don't have that entitlement. You hear people all the time saying, what can an African American man do? Or let me back up. What cannot, tell me something that a African American man that he cannot do that a European American can. And that's an easy response. Is that the African American or African man can never walk around with the mindset or the feeling that he does not come from slavery, or that he does not come from what people look at as lower stock. He can't. because that is the whole perception of the African American race within the United States of America. People double talk all the time. They'll say things like, get over slavery. And nobody's thinking about that. But guess what? The moment they're upset at you, the moment you get into a political situation, they go back to these words, these microaggressions, or these little darts. We freed y'all. We free. As if like they're God. We freed y'all. We're the party that freed y'all. As if no Africans fought in the Civil War. No Africans fought in the Revolutionary War. We just was waiting on you guys. Please, Master, free me. Please, don't. Please free me. And whenever they get upset, just like I was telling you at the beginning of the video, that many times when people are upset or when they're going through a struggle, you will find out what's really in them. And when you hard press a European American, not all of them, I'm talking about the kinds that I'm discussing, they will turn around and use things to show you how they really feel, to show you why they don't want reparations paid, because it gives them the right to come back and hit you over the head. It's feeling like we never paid for it. And they say, well, disassociate me from slavery because I never owned a slave. Then how did you free us then if you never owned slaves and if you never fought in the Civil War? How could you have freed us? How are you saying y'all freed us? Y'all. You're not saying y'all. But then if I say y'all enslaved us, I never owned a slave. But then you never fought in the Civil War. So how did you free us? I'm trying to figure that out. See the double bind in that? You claim that you never owned slaves, so you should not have to pay for slaves, but you still take ownership in freeing them. Or freeing us. I was never a slave, but some kind of way you say we freed y'all. So you connected me to slavery. So you connect me to slavery when it's convenient, and then all of a sudden you disconnect me when it's time to pay. Or time to deal with the pathology that your ancestry put in our race. Now, let's deal with Karmelo Anthony, the person who unalived the other person. Clearly, when you deal with Karmelo Anthony, you have to deal with his mom and his father. I don't know the mom and father, but I can say this. Something in this young man says, I'm going to take it up on myself to defend myself. Why did this young man feel like he didn't have help? Why didn't he feel like, I want to show you a lesson that my dad taught me. People, when I went to private school, I graduated from private school, and there were a lot of people thought that I was a coward because people bullied me. They would talk about me all the time. They would talk about me. I mean, Lord, it was atrocious. It was very hurtful. And I want to keep it 100. Most of them, because I was in an African-American community, looked like me. I even went over into a European-American community for 1 year, I think. 1 semester, 1 year. Same situation. It was just, I never fit in either side, it seemed like. But believe it or not, I was the type of person, I had no problem fighting. A lot of people didn't know that about me. Especially when the 3 years I was at private school, they did not know that, man, I was a fighter. I was a person that had no problem using my hands. But I can recall the last time that I used my hand. I can remember that very clear. It was what year was that? In fact, I was being bullied. You know what I'm saying? I was a little dude. So hey, dude, I'm going to get the first punch off because I wasn't going to let you overpower me. I had strength, but man, forget it. Well, we was in a classroom. This was right before I went to private school. We was in a classroom, and the guy kept talking about me, telling me what he was going to do to me. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But he was picking on me. But I made it by my mind, you're not going to bully me. You're not going to walk over me. And the dude behind me said, man, he going to get you when you get outside. He said, wait till we get outside the portal. That's what he said. Wait till we get outside the portal. I was like, all right, yeah, we're going to wait. But as we was walking, he was waiting on me, and I turned around and Bow! It just went off on him. Pop, 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 pop. They took us to the office. He's sitting there all embarrassed and got whooped because he didn't think I was that type of person. He was just looking at me. My dad brought me to the house. And he sit me in I think it was the dining room or something. He sit me down. And I was sitting there looking at him. He said, "Did you win?" I said, "Yeah, I won." He said, "All right." He said, "Okay, hold up, wait right there. I'll be right back." So he went to the other room. I thought he was going to get me some kind of gift or something, or to say good job. And then he came back with a belt. I said, "What?" And my dad was different from my mom. My mom would probably just start whipping you and whipping you without explaining. But my dad was always going to explain why he beat your butt or why he did it. And so he came to me and said, "You know what? I don't want you to allow people to put their hands on you. I don't want you to allow people to be hitting on you, okay? But you could have avoided that fight. You could have avoided that. I believe them people pump you up. And when they pump you up, you hit that boy first, and then y'all went to fight. And now everybody thinking you." He said, "But I'm finna put an end to this." And he whooped my behind right there. Told me up with a belt. Now, a lot of people say that's trying to make me a coward. At that point, I'm gonna be honest, my understanding of that, it took a long time to me mature that, because I didn't know whether to fight, whether not to fight. And there were people who bullied me and hurt my feelings a lot, and I just didn't respond to it. I clammed up. Now, I think my daddy could have took that further, but he taught me a valuable lesson. Try your best to avoid fights. And I think Karmelo Anthony could have used some counseling. And I'm not trying to demonize his father or his mother, because I didn't get a chance to listen to him talk. Somebody failed Karmelo Anthony by talking to him or being able to speak to him. What's going on with you? That's why it's important to talk to our children, especially our African American men, that try your best to avoid fight. It's the same thing as being pulled over by the police. If the police pull you over, I'm not telling you got to be master. "Oh, master, please, yes sir, yes sir, yes, I was just going to the store, sir. I wasn't doing that, sir." I didn't say that. Either remain silent or comply. Try your best to avoid that situation. It doesn't matter if you think I'm weak or not. You're going to find out when you put your hands on me. What I mean by, and that's the point about, I don't know if he put his hands on Karmelo Anthony. So we're saying, I don't know. You have no right to put hands on people. Okay? Now, if you're an authority and somebody say, "I'm taking you to jail," go ahead and let them put you in cuffs. Go on to jail. You ain't got to wrestle with them, because you're going to try your best to avoid trying to deal with a number that's you outnumbered. To emasculate you, to embarrass you, to shame you. You want to avoid that. Now, that's the point about being a man. That's about maturing into a manhood. Maturing into manhood many times called swallowing your pride, brother. Because there's a lot of time people talk, and sometimes you just got to say, "Yeah, I'm going to let you have that today." And take that L for today. But guess what? I got you. I got you. I'm not saying go do something later. I'm just saying keep yourself in a position that if I can avoid a confrontation, I'm going to avoid it. If I can avoid having to fight you or get into a violence, I'm going to do my best to avoid it. Only when I have to. And these are things that you have to be trained on. You don't get to just have one conversation and say what to avoid. It's over time. You just can't say, well, what do I do? Avoid this? It's over time. And that's why a father and other African American men have to nurture and to show African American men that every situation is not a situation that I need to confront. You may feel that you told me off. Cool. You told me off. You told me to get off none of y'all tent. Is this y'all tent? Hey, man, I'll holler at you. Y'all have a good day. That's what Karmelo Anthony should have did. This is your tent. Why? Because you was outnumbered. You didn't read the scenery. Here's two dudes bigger than you. You got your knife with you. Cool. You got your back. Man, I have a right to be. Say, man, this is our tent. I tell you what, man. We ain't got to do all this, but guess what? Since this is what you want to do, I'm out. But if it was you and you had some people with you, then I don't have to go anywhere because I have a number to deal with you. And guess what? Somebody go get authority, man. Go get the law before this get out of hand. Use your brain. Now, again, the self-defense argument is for the law, it's for his lawyers. It's plausible. It's plausible. But the entitlement of theory when it comes to Austin Metcalf is very much plausible. And I see that with his mom. You can get mad at me for saying that and say I'm slandering his mama and all this kind of stuff. I see that with his mama and his brother. Just listen to her talk. And there are a lot of European American women, not all of them now, who are like that. They feel like they're entitled. I'm better than you. I'm better than the African woman. I'm the prize, you know. I'm not saying she felt that way, and I'm not saying she is that way. I'm saying when I listened to the video of her and the other twin, he paints this narrative that we were doing everything right, and then that's almost like two kids. I was just sitting in the room and looking at TV, and he just came in and bust me upside my head for nothing. What? Yeah, I was looking at cartoons and Bugs Bunny was playing and we was just looking at, and he looked at me and I said, "Have your day? Is your day nice?" And he said, "No, I'm gonna make your day bad." And bust me upside the head. And then I started crying. I just said, "Why?" How many times have we heard kids do that? Until you hear the other part about, wait a minute, you didn't tell me that you went there and were looking at Bugs Bunny and he asked you, could he look at something else? And then you said no. And he said, "I'm going to go tell mama." Then you said, "You ain't telling nobody," and threw something at him. You left that part out. And so I'm going to say that it's more to this story than we know. It's more to the story because of you trying to paint this person as coming over to your tent looking for trouble, as if he went and got a knife, knowing that there's going to be some trouble, and say, "Hey, I'm going to come with my knife because I intend to stab Austin Metcalf." But when a society has a view that the African male is a criminal element, it's plausible. See, all you have to do is have a view that the African male is a criminal element. You put these statistics out there that they lead in murder. See, the statistics say half of all murders are by African American men. So once you look at that statistic and plug it in, see, he must be half of them murderers anyway. But that statistic is biased. It's biased because it's looking at per 100,000 and it's looking at a group of people that are oppressed and in the same area, in the same confined spaces, with different economic backgrounds. Then you are going to have a different outcome, brother. Just like you put Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, they were in good environments. Both of them would. I'm not saying, I don't know how wealthy they are, but they were above poverty level. Frisco is not South Dallas, so the worst part of South Dallas. I know that. Frisco is a nice, well-to-do area. So how did these two people confront one another in an unaliving happen? That's because although they had the same possible economic empowerment or power, they shared different ideals and different forms of entitlement or different forms of feeling that I can. And it and it came together and it clashed. So you had one feeling one way and one feeling another way, and one feeling that possibly, which is Karmelo Anthony, you're not going to walk over me, and the other one, hey baby, you in the wrong spot, you need to move, and I'm going to take it up on myself to move you and move your stuff out the way. Get up out of here. This ain't your tent, baby. How do we see this? We see this with Rittenhouse. He goes up there with a gun, and the public saw it totally different because they felt like it's our right to do it. We see this with people walking in their neighborhoods, and I say there, I'm saying a certain type of European American, instead of calling the police and y'all having a meeting together and saying, okay, here's the police. Can we ask why you? It's like, call the police, get them out of here. You don't have no business walking in here. And sometimes they just don't even call the police. They just take it upon themselves to do it. We've seen this too many times on national television with European Americans. And here's I wouldn't, somewhat like a correlation, but I wouldn't call it a correlation. I would call it, here is something, a pattern that we see of both races. You see one race taking it upon themselves to enforce the law. And then you take another race that takes it upon themselves to defend themselves against the law or the perceive that we have the right to do this. So it's one that feel like, hey, we are the law. The other one feel like your law is unjust and we must take it upon ourselves to defend ourselves because the people who enforce the law or are supposed to protect us will not do so. See, this is what we have in the United States of America. And then when we see a lot of so-called African Americans defending European oppression and aggressions and microaggression and marginalization and gaslighting, they are not African Americans. These are Negroes and black people, which Negro and black is the same. They have been indoctrinated. Yeah. They have been indoctrinated to believe that this is the way, this is their right. You have them talking about, I'm not African because I wasn't in Africa. I'm an American, but then double back and say I'm black. Were you born in space? Were you born in a coloring book? Why are you so quick to take the label of black but want to reject the label of African? You said you're an American, would then dump the label black too. But you're not going to dump the label black because the label black is owned by Europeans. They the one gave you that label. And so Massa gave you the label. It's like your mama call you Cassius Clay, I'm gonna call you Cassius Clay. Even though the man said, I don't want to be the name back. I'm Muhammad Ali now. I don't want my name to be Cassius Clay. It's a slave name. But now that's what your mama gave you. So the white man gave you that name, and that's what your name is. It's Negro. You're black. You're black. And so you're gonna be black, and you need to accept that name. Now, you didn't have to unalive that young man. You didn't have to stab him and do that. You didn't. You didn't. He could have did that a different way. But guess what? I don't know if he felt he was defending himself or not. I don't know the situation. I wasn't there. I wasn't an eyewitness. And guess what? Most people that's talking about it weren't eyewitnesses. But within the criminal justice system, that's how they work anyway. They don't have to be in there. They don't, but they feel it's their right to give you your intent, what you intended to do. This is what you intended to do. You can't prove that, but guess what? I don't have to prove it because I'm the law. Okay. And this is why so many people are invested in Austin Metcalf, because when they see Austin Metcalf, they see their son, they see their brother. That's it. So they have an emotional investment and attachment to that. When I see Karmelo Anthony, I do see someone like me because he's somewhat associated with my genealogy, my African ancestry. So I'm going to relate to some of the things that he's going through. And those that understand Austin Metcalf is going to see their son and how they taught them. This is why I saw a video. There was a European American young lady beating up a African American girl, and the principal or teacher who was there didn't really intervene as long as the European American was but when the African American girl another one jumped in and got her off of her and started whooping her. Now it's time to break it up. Because European Americans, aka white Americans, not all of them, have this in the back of their mind that you want your children to be aggressive and assertive. You want them to take charge, to almost like passing of the mantle. This is your country. You are the leader, not them. They don't want to admit that, even in classrooms. And this is why African American young boys struggle so much, because you're dealing with a so alleged white society that wants to pass the mantle of leadership authority over to white males. And so when they saw this young man, Austin Metcalf, unalived, they saw a defiant slave, a future. How dare you unalive the future of the United States of America? Wow. And that's my take on this whole situation. Meaning you're not going to accept this take, fine, I'm cool with it. But that's the reality of living in the United States of America. The reality of it is that as an African American man, you are a young boy, you are going to be the most misdiagnosed in the whole United States of America. If they will say they will say F your feelings, so to speak. Forget your emotions, forget your brain maturity. I don't want to hear about your brain maturing. So what? I don't want to hear about it. If you're on drugs, you're just a crackhead. But when their children or young men are on drugs, it's a crisis. It's a health crisis. He needs help. You don't need nothing but a jail cell or a straitjacket. Your brain, don't you talk about no brain maturity. I don't want to hear that mess. But when it's theirs, oh, now it's counseling, psychology. I need a psychological therapist. I need a psychologist. I possibly need a psychiatrist. But when it's you, I don't want to hear none of that foolishness. They don't want to hear about your mind and what you go through mentally. So what? I don't want to hear it. Stop all that nonsense. But when it's theirs, hey, time to deal with it. Time to deal with it. And so, as I close this podcast, I want you to reach out, like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel on YouTube. ARA Self-Empowerment. Don't forget to go over to Facebook at ARA Self-Empowerment Podcast and follow me there. Make